The title of our session is Development Approach for Sitecore plus SXA site. We are in the networking time, we knew that almost many of you have already worked on SXA. Some of them are not yet started on SXA, but to make it possible for them to get a quick start, we would also include some overview of SXA, why SXA we need. So that is what we would add into our agenda. So, and my name is Nisheesh Kulshreshtha, and I am working as a senior Sitecore developer in horizontal integration.
My name is Deepak. I'm also working with horizontal integration, and I'm working on SXA for 5 months.
So the agenda for today's presentation would be, there will be a brief introduction to SXA. Considering the audience that we have included this agenda like brief introduction a bit just before we had a session after networking plan. Then we would look into why SXA, why we are focusing on SXA. Then the most important thing would be the development approaches that we follow and that what we recommend. Then there would be a brief demo of the full development approach end to end, and then we will share the challenges that we are facing with the resolution. What were our approach towards those challenges? So Sitecore Experience Accelerator. So why Sitecore came up with Sitecore Experience Accelerator? So Sitecore as a company wanted to solve 3 important challenges. First challenge was improve time to market. In traditional Sitecore development, whenever from considering UX UI to fed, bed, then there would be content editing. Then it's the time to go live. So all these development needs to happen in a waterfall model. So the time to market of the site increased considerably. But when we got SXA, using SXA, the content entry can itself start before development itself. If we are using out of the box components, the content entry can start even if we can just give the client some basic wireframe themes with some info on how to use the components, which component we would be using, and they can start their content entry. So basically, every team can work parallelly, and hence the time to market is considerably reduced. The second challenge was better content author experience. So when by the introduction of SXA, we have a better experience editor. We can drag and drop components. We have much more control over components. Even the content author, not very much having knowledge of Sitecore, can build the pages itself, for the full pages with every component that they need. Also, they don't have to wait for any backend developer to help them to create or get a new component. The third thing was, as we know that Sitecore is like custom everything. We can customize anything in Sitecore. So, for an implementation, for a feature, for example, n number of developers can implement the same feature in their own way. So there is no same feature can be implemented in many inconsistent patterns. I can do the same thing in some other way. Some other developer can do the same thing in some other way. So that inconsistency, to remove that inconsistency, SXA, the Sitecore came with SXA. So they have some consistent patterns which we need to follow to create components and use that. Next.
To solve these challenges, SXA comes with a few basic features. If you see, we have 100 plus flexible reusable components which are out of the box, and it is like the regular components which we use in generic sites. It could be promo, rich text, and all those stuff. And apart from that, we get variant option. So there are scenarios where 2 components look similar, but there are slight changes. Taking example of a promo component where image can go on the left hand side, image can go on the right hand side. So for that, we can use a variant option where we need not to do much coding. You have to just create variant in Sitecore. It hardly takes 2 to 3 minutes if you know SXA, and the same variant, the same component can be dropped on a page, and you can change the variant and get the different style. no coding required at all. Even HTML is structured. If you want something to be wrapped on div or something, that can also be handled from SXA. Then comes it's very easy to add any it supports multi-tenant and multi-site, so it's very easy to create another site. It's all PowerShell script. You have to just right click and create site. So we don't have to create any template or anything. Everything will be handled from Sitecore, and it's just out of the box. Then we have improved experience accelerator. As Nisheesh told, we get a toolbox, and toolbox provide all the components which can be dropped on the page, and you can see all available on the right hand side. So now we have another way to add the components. And one of the great thing which we see from SXA is creative exchange, and this is where we will be doing demo as well. This is a fantastic stuff where we can export the pages which we have built, and we can give it to front end developer. We can have a discussion how to actually build these pages, and this complete asset with HTML and CSS can be exported into zip or a static folder, and we can hand it over to FED. They can make their changes, and we can bring it back to Sitecore using import. And there are some certain limitations, but yeah, this is another cool stuff we have from SXA. Okay, so this is how we are reducing time to market. If you see the standard way, it goes in a flow, but here we can collaborate between different front-end, back-end development, and that this actually reduces the time for the development and eventually time to the market as well. So why we should care about SXA? Because client want SXA. Why? Because the time to market is decreasing. We have out-of-the-box component which can be reused, and it is very easy to build a custom component as well. And most of the things can be handled through variants. And if not, if it is more complex, then we can go custom SXA way as well.
The cost is also decreased if we use SXA, as we get all the components out of the box ready. There are some more benefits of SXA, like as we just discussed, speed and reusability. We already have 100 plus flexible components already available, no custom coding required, so it's speedy and reusable, ease of use. So as we just discussed, that content author can just drag and drop the components on the page. We can have the page ready in a very easy way. Even the content authors who are not technically very sound can create their own pages using SXA. SXA supports, like SXA by default comes with the bootstrap grid layout. So all the designs are responsive. We don't need to worry about if I drop a component with full width. So in mobile, it will automatically be reduced to that particular size. We also have options to have a full width or 2 column or 3 column. So that is all provided by SXA. So it's responsive. The ability, any component or any page if created using SXA has the ability to edit the metadata properties in Experience Editor. So every page has a good 9 key if we create that page using SXA. The content author can also edit the metadata in Experience Editor as well. Multi-site and multi-tenant. So as Sumit just said that PowerShell script is what SXA is based on. Yes, completely. So if there are scripts provided by Sitecore, by SXA, and we can just execute those scripts and we are ready with a multi-tenant and multi-site setup with multi-languages as well. It's free. SXA was actually introduced in Sitecore Symposium 2016 when Sitecore 8.1 was introduced. At that time, there was it was perpetual licensing. So SXA was not included within the Sitecore's licensing. So if you want to use SXA, you have to buy a new license to use SXA. But from the latest Sitecore 9, where we have consumption-based licensing, SXA comes within that license. So it's like if you are a new Sitecore user and you have bought a new Sitecore license for Sitecore 9, SXA is free. these are the basic elements of SXA. So as I said that all the devices are supported, it is responsive. So that's the first thing. Then we have multi-tenant and multi-site architecture inbuilt. The SXA also supports WFM. The themes which I just discussed. By default, SXA gives us some basic themes. We can use those themes initially, and as and when we progress, we develop our own themes. The front end team can develop our theme, and then we can just plug in those themes, and that theme would be applied. Then one of the cool features is rendering toolbox and rendering variants. So there are 100 plus components available. We can customize those, like as Deepak already mentioned. We have a promo image with image on left and text on right, but we want to have a switch. Like I want to have image on right and text on left, so I can create a rendering variant. Then there is a concept of page designs and partial designs in SXA. So a page when created, it is created using page design. Same layout of a, we can say page design as a layout. So a page design is created using partial designs. Partial designs is the design, for example, let's take an example of header. My header would be same across all the pages on my site. So I can create one partial design for header. My header can have three components. For example, utility links, a logo, and a main navigation. All these three components I can drop it on my partial design, and then I can use that partial design on my page design. And so all the pages on my site would use the same partial design and header. Even if there is a change in one of the component, it would apply everywhere. So that's a very good feature. So basically, design and data are separated so that we can change anything without changing the other. Then we have creative exchange. So this is also one of the good features that Deepak has already described. There is also one feature called creative exchange live. We face some challenges in creative exchange live, which we will be discussing later. But that is also a good feature, not used right now. Then we have asset optimizer. SXA by default has its own themes. Every component has its own style. So for example, accordion component, so it will have accordion component accordion.css. For a different component, it will have component dash component name .css. So it will have, for example, if I use 100 components on a site, then it will have 100 CSS files linked to that page. So whenever my page is loaded, it will load 100 CSS. Instead, I can enable asset optimizer, so it will minify and it will bundle and minify those links into one CSS style. So finally, I would just get one CSS style. So that is where asset optimizer can be used. Any questions in till now or in this diagram? For the those who are starting on SXA or want to learn SXA. Now let's come to the main focus of today's presentation: development approaches. So from the project that we are doing, we went that way. Like we use out of the box components as much as possible. If the client has a requirement which is not matching with out of the box design, we try to convince the client to go out of the box. If he agrees, that's very good. If he is not agreeing, then we go with variant. If we can create a variant of that. If not, then we create a custom view. We would see the demo of first two. The custom view. What is custom view? Uh, so, for example, if I take example of registration. So, in my site, there is a registration form. By default, SXA and Commerce give me a registration form which has a username or email and then password. Only these two are password and re-enter password. Only these three fields are available. What if I want to add some more? So SXA provides us a way to customize the view and model. So I need to customize the model to add, for say example, I want to add first name, last name to the existing registration form. So I will customize the model and or I can say extend the model to add 2 new fields to the model. Then I would extend the view. I need to just add one setting that I don't want to use the out of the box view. I want to use my view. The only condition is the name of the view should be same and it should be placed in a different view folder. Then a setting needs to be done in SXA, which would use that folder custom view instead of the out of the box. If that custom view does not exist, it will use out of the box view. So this is where third point would be used. And if none of the components of the requirement is such that does not meet any of the top three, then we have to go with custom SXA component. So it's kind of scratch development, but SXA has provided a list of steps that we need to follow to develop a custom SXA component. The only benefit of custom SXA component is we can use everything that custom that SXA provides. We can create a variant of that custom SXA component as well. Next. This is the basic flow of development. This is the most important part that we would like to share. The first thing that a backend developer does is build a component or build a page. As taking example of a live project, so all the live projects would have its code source control, right? So there would be within a gate or anything. So we would be creating a feature branch out of the main branch. First of all, the backend developer would create a feature branch out of the main branch. He will drag, the backend developer would drop the components whatever are required. Say for example 2 promos. The backend developer would drop 2 components on the page, for example. Before exporting the site, before the backend developer gives the site for styling, there is a connect, there is a quick chat that happens between a backend developer and a front-end developer, so that we don't do back and forth in the first and second step. There is a quick chat here wherein front-end and backend developer decides the structure and any column layout classes that we need to add depending on the design that we have. That is done in the first step. Once that is done, backend developer exports the site. This is the second step. At this step, the backend developer, there are 2 options we can export the site. One is folder on server and the other is export the site as zip file. We export the site as folder on server. We don't use zip file. We also add those static things that are static HTML, CSS, SAS files, etc. in source control. What exactly we are source controlling, what not, we will be discussing later. At this moment, backend developer's job for that page or that feature is done. Now, front-end developer would be doing his updates by applying the theme or classes or adding classes to the page or applying CSS for that page. This is the step, third step, where front-end developer would be doing his changes. He can do some changes like he can update or add SAS file, he can change JS file or add JS file, but he can do limited changes in HTML structure. If there is a change needed in HTML structure, we need to again go to first step. As SXA would not be, the site won't be get imported if we change the HTML in a non-proper way that the SXA does not support. So any HTML change needs to be done by backend developer and not in code, just by dropping the component or by creating a variant or by wrapping the variant in a div using variant only. Once FED developer's changes are done, he would let the backend developer know that I am done with the changes, and he would also commit his changes in the same feature branch. Once the changes, front-end developer changes are committed in the branch, back-end developer would pull that latest changes from the branch. There is bulk tasks already created or already provided by Sitecore, which compiles the SAS files, JS files, fonts, and creates a CSS files. We have made some customization here, which we would be discussing in demo. Once that ready to import site is ready, backend developer imports it back to Sitecore. Now, in the whole flow, this all happened in developer's local machine. We have not done anything on the above environment till now. So what the backend developer will do here, whatever import has been done in the import would be mostly in media library, the JS files, CSS files, or SAS files. So backend developer would make sure that he adds those Sitecore items in source control, either in TDS or in Uniform. So once that is added in TDS in the project, then a PR would be created to the main branch. So we have everything done. We have all the assets in source control. So when we do a deployment on, say for example, QA, that source control item would also be deployed. Hence, our changes would be deployed to above environments. Any questions in this flow or anything? Any concerns? No. Okay.
So basically, we are gonna demo this flow, like how we approach toward SXA and how we what our approach was. So taking an example, I have to do something like this. There is a wireframe design where I need a promo banner, which is kind of full width. There must be text coming over image. I need promo cards like this. So this is a short example which I will be using promo component to demo.
The main point of getting you these pages is please focus on the last page of this. It contains that flowchart. So if you can connect while doing the demo, that would be great. So the first step.
So, one question. So the only problem that I see in SXA is that for the partial design, right, we also face this problem. If a component, right, partial design fails then reduce the partial design, right? Yeah. So if data is varied, every time I have to get a new partial design, right? Right. So
data is varying between sites or
between the same page, if I have the same page design and
so if data is varying between pages, we cannot create a partial page. We should not create a partial page. So I take an example of a header. Header won't vary on pages. It would vary on site.
so assume header is varying, then you need a new partial design.
Then you would have a partial design and a new page design for that page.
That is a problem then. Every time content assume I have 5 different pages, everybody needs a different header. Let's assume that for a hypothetical situation. Then content authors, I think, don't like to create multiple partial designs. They want a variant. This is the same design like the traditional Sitecore way, where you are able to get everything within that. So there is no clear mountain way, but asking you to find any way, any solution to solve.
So we had a requirement that we would have the same component on every. Okay. So we had multi-site and with multi-region. So in region, for example, US and Canada, for example, 2 regions. Within US, I can have 2 sites. Within Canada, I can have 2 sites. Every site would have the same header, but data should vary. That was our requirement. So on our requirement, we use partial designs because we can give a relative data source to partial designs. So
as far as the design remains the same, partial design are good.
Yeah.
When we say data is changing, if your navigation is changing, or maybe your text is changing, in that cases, still the partial designs are good. It's just the common functionality that we want to have, that the header on the footer, or maybe the Facebook links or the Twitter links that we have just put in. As soon as have this consistent throughout the site, partial designs are being very good.
I think he's referring to snippets.
Sorry, snippets.
Snippets it's not even no. They don't work. Also Sitecore recommend to use snippets, but I think they are not very healthy. We have many issues with
Yeah,
snippets.
same here.
Yes.
So as you said, you found a way. The other way would be creating a custom component, custom SXA component. So and giving an option to choose
Yes.
between something.
We actually wanted to have a local data source and like.
So local data source
local
again.
data
It
source
would,
and a global
so
data source.
so in SXA, local data source is page-wise.
Yes.
So but that is also not a good practice.
Yeah.
So I won't recommend that actually.
Yeah, there are multiple ways. So we have found like two other ways as well. So this is one of the ways that we have. So
Yeah, agree. But if you have, as you said that you have, will have the same component in multiple pages. So for each page you have that local data source.
So, but I think so this is a problem that we face quite a lot that authors didn't want to create multiple partial designs. So, and even the Sitecore didn't have any much a solid solution to that. We got snippets, it didn't work out.
It didn't work for us as well.
So,
So,
this blog do suggest snippets, but I think there is still way to go for snippets.
so what I can suggest here is we can create multiple partial designs, multiple page designs for those pages. You can use inheritance in page designs. There is inheritance, so you can create one page design. For example, it has base. It can you have base things. Then it inherited page design. It will have the base thing, but some more things can be added here. So that way, that may be. I mean, again, it depends on your requirement, but that may help. Yep.
So I'll be following the development flow, which you just saw. You'll be having something like this. So what we want is a promo banner and a kind of promo card. So I decide to go with the default promo component which is available there for this one. And for promo card, I think like there is image and text, so I'll go with the variant.
So thing to notice here is we want to create two components. The first is the promo banner, which would have a image and a text. Thing to note here is the text is overlaid on the banner. And in the promo card below, there are four components here. I mean, the same component is used four times, but the promo card has an image and a text in between, the center align. So just this is the requirement now that we need to create.
Okay. So going with the promo component which you can see in SXA, there is a default promo component which you can drop on the page. So I already have I created some promos over here for demo, so I'm selecting the first one. So whenever a SXA component is dropped, it will be taking the default variant. So this is how it is gonna look. Let me save this and go back to Sitecore. And now I want to create a variant for the second promo, which looks like this. So let me show how variant was created. So if I come here, there is a system. So inside the rendering variant, we have a promo folder, and here the default is the default promo which we dropped right now. I want to create a variant for promo card, and hence to create a variant, I'll go and choose insert variant definition, and then I can give the name, and this is how it is going to look. The first item which will be created, I'm giving promo card as the name. Now I'm going to decide how the HTML structure will look. So for this, I need one image and one text. So basically, I don't need a complex HTML structure. I need only image and text. So what I have done is, I created a variant field, which tag wrapper will be div, and the field which is being taken is promo icon. Now, what is this field? These field are the template field name, which will be a data source for this promo. And the next is the link which I wanted at the bottom, so that will come in the span. Again, it's my choice what I want. I want anchor tag, I want div tag, and what wrapper I want, I can choose here as well. So these are the two things which I added. If I wanted a wrapper around these two, I can actually add another wrapper from here. HTML tag, and I can put all of them, all these together into that HTML tag. So that will create a wrapper. So this is how HTML structure will be defined in SXA. Another thing is like since we are dropping same promo component, I want to differentiate these variants by classes so that front end should not feel difficulty to styling different promos. For them it is different component. For us it is the same component, but for them they need a separate class to design. So for the same on the variant, we can add a CSS classes over here, and that is what I have added, promo card. So since my promo variant is already created over here, let's go to page, and I'm gonna add another promo component at the bottom here. Now I'm going to select second data source and I'll hit OK. So since I'm dropping first time, it is gonna take default variant, and now we are going to change the variant of what we have created. So if you see the default, it is taking default image, text and all those stuff. These were assembled previously, but the 3 fields are coming. For our variant, I wanted only 2 fields. So you can see here promo card is coming, and if we select that, you can see the changes. Another way to do that is to go to style options, and here also I can choose the variant, and I'm going to choose promo card. Now next is I wanted this promo card to be like stacked into 4. So for that also SXA provides some solution where you can choose column classes over here. So since I want 4 in a row, I'll have to choose 3. This is all about CSS stuff. Variant is selected, and for desktop and laptop I'm choosing 3 column. And you see this is stacked like this. I can add another promo. Let's quickly do that. I'm dropping it here. I have third promo already assembled. Again, I'm going to do the same thing for this. I'll be using 3 and promo card. And this is how it is looking. So this is the first step of making the component ready.
So this was the first step that you can see on the flow chart. The component is now ready. Backend developer has done all these changes right now. Now there would be a connect between backend developer and front-end developer. Can you open the front-facing side? So when the front-end backend developer connects, they would see the front-end developer would verify whether this HTML is what he can style or not, whether all the classes that are required for him to style are available or not. If not, then we would make the changes again and then we'll say okay. If it is up to the mark, then we will go to next step.
So next step is
Just one. Yeah, thing to notice here, we have not yet added any CSS. So this is the default style that comes out of the box. So you can see the image at the top, the text below, the link below, that we have image here and text at the left side. According to our designs, the text is overlaid, so which would be done in next step. That is front-end developer stuff.
My page is ready for export. I'm going to export it from Sitecore SXA feature. I'm going to the page which was mine free. On home, I can hit export. We have some option. I want to export full site, branch. I want single page. So let me do the single page. Then site context is okay. We have only one site. Now there is agency drop where I can drop it for the front end and that is importable. So that if any change is done, I can import back to Sitecore. Then comes, I would prefer to do folder on server. And let's hit next.
We are doing folder to server option because we are adding those static HTMLs in our source control. If we add the zip file, if we export it as a zip, we need to add zip in source control. Front end developer then have to unzip and then package it back and then give it to back us. So we choose the folder on server, which is not a zip file.
Okay, so export is done. A notification comes over here. Now, the default folder for export will be your web root folder inside app data, package, creative exchange, file storage, and with the site name, it is gonna come. So I exported one page, which is called Mindtree over here, and index.html will be created. And this is what it looks like.
In the static, this is the static HTML file that you can notice.
Okay. So now the thing is, this completely is in web root, but we want to work on this and we want to give it a front end and all these. We want to source control. We cannot source control this, so we keep it at separate place. So complete folder we can keep it at a different place where it can be source control. Any change will be done in the source control. It will be imported back here. So that comes in. It's like I have created another folder just to demo like this particular folder is being source controlled. And if you see the front end, let me show here the front end assets will be in this particular path. Theme will be there. And this is what will be source controlled in separate folder by copying from here. Okay, so this is what being source control. If you see it is actually a bulk solution. You can first time you'll have to do npm install and all those stuff. And I'll explain how we are approaching. So there was already index.js. We are not using that. We for the demo purpose, I created a small bulk task to just show how front end will be doing these stuff.
So the backend developer has added all the required files to source control and committed the changes. Now the front end developer has pulled the branch, and now its front end developers is doing the change.
So this is what front end developer will get. This is small bulk task I have written to convert SAS file into CSS. Just a small task. Next is front end is gonna add SAS file. So let's say for this particular work, front end is adding SUG BLR SCSS file over here. Let's quickly see. So this is the SAS file which was written by front end. And front end is done with this SAS file. What front end is gonna do? Front end will run the gulp task. So once gulp task is built, it will generate CSS code for the site. Okay, this is done. So the destination path which I have given for CSS is styles, and if I go here, I can see SUG BLR CSS already compiled into CSS. Okay, so now front end did their job. They have to commit their changes into the branch, and I as a backend developer will pull those changes, and then comes is the import part. So once I have all the changes from front end, I'll have to bring these changes back to Sitecore web root folder where the creative exchange resides. So let me actually copy only this file because I want this to be imported. There will be HTML changes, index page changes as well. So that also will be coming into Sitecore creative exchange folder. So at the same path where the style folder exists, I'm going to put the changes. Okay, so now it is here. When I imported all the changes in local web root folder, I have to go and hit import.
So this is the last step where backend developer is importing all the things that were provided by front end team.
Okay, so let me hit import folder on server because we are using folder on server. So it says media item created because we added a new media item. If it was already existing, then it will override those media items. We had only one change, so one change is being shown. If any warning or error is there, all the list will be created over here as a part of the code. I can quickly show where it comes. It will come in the media theme. SUG was my tenant, SUG BLR site. style, and if you see SUG Bangalore item is created over here. Now let's go and validate whether my changes are reflecting on the page or not.
So now you can see that the text is now overlaid with styling, and the below promos are also styled, and the text is coming in the center. So this is the full flow. Now one step that is pending is, this is the place where backend developer verified that all the styles are applied. Now if the CSS item that was created is still in the local box, in the local developers box, it is not in TDS right now. So once this is verified, backend developer would add these changes or update these changes in the project, TDS project, and will commit those changes. So this completes the full flow of development for SXA site. Any queries? Run this aside. So so we have all the things ready, like we have created the component, we imported it back, and that is available on the site. But for every department, as per our experience, every department of our company, starting from UX, UI, QA, BED team, FED team, technology lead, PMs, even the client content authors, there is a learning curve for SXA. To learn SXA, to use SXA, all these teams need some learning curve. So UX needs to know what the components are already available, and so that they can design the UI such that they can leverage the out of the box components, most of it. QA team needs to evaluate the plans, to test it, how to test it, and efforts on how to test it. Initially it would be high, but as and when they get accustomed to SXA, the efforts would be low. They would also need to collaborate with team how to use out of the box components, how to choose variants, how we can create variant if the requirement is such that I can create any variant on the promo or on the component. BED team, again, we need to be familiar with less coding approach and more of configuring or less backend thing like in SXA. We also need to make sure that whenever we change anything in SXA, if there is a case we need to override any templates, then we need to make sure that we consider SXA upgrade path. As SXA is evolving, there would be frequent releases, and we need to make sure that we can upgrade in a smoother manner later. So as a backend team, I would always keep that in mind. Front-end developers, again, there are some restrictions because of SXA. They need to think differently. They need to think backwards. Like we already have a theme, they need to work in limited HTML, and they need to make sure that the components are as required. Tech lead, they need to plan and establish a process that works for the team and the client both. Content authors for the client, they need extensive training. So for these, we also create content guides for content authors so that they can use those content guides and then they can use the components or create the pages. The one thing also that we learned while working on SXA is we should be collaborating more. If we don't collaborate and we work in isolation like in traditional Sitecore development, then the chances of failure or rework would be much. So there it's time to say goodbye to work in isolation, and we need to collaborate. Every department, starting from UX till the client, they need to collaborate. Now the challenges that we face. These are some of the challenges that we face. So the first challenge was source control only required items. Deepak, you want to add on?
Yeah. So first, one of the things which we were facing, like source controlling, like we previously we were source controlling everything, but we saw a lot of merge issues. Example, like if we are compiling all the CSS changes which is being done for my side, and if we compile into one CSS, and if multiple PRs are coming or multiple changes are coming, each and every time we were getting conflicts. So that was one of the challenges we faced, and definitely in backend import and all those stuff were also difficult. For that, what we did, we are source controlling only required items. So how we approached it, we are source controlling only SAS file. So what we do is SAS file will not have conflicts because those are like small chunks of code and can be easily merged together. So in our branch, we control only SAS file, and each developer will pull the branch, and all the SAS file will be there. The developer will run the Gulp task, and the CSS will be generated in local. Now this is not being source control, so this will never go to the source control. There will be no conflict. So that was the one. That was one of the approach. And next problem now comes here is we have a source control folder, and we need to know what need to be put back to the creative folder and imported back to the Sitecore. Now this was one of the hectic job which we were doing all the time, because it's not so easy. You have to know what all files has changed. Pulling those files into Creative Exchange and then importing was a difficult task. What we did is we have written some automation script for that, leveraging how SXA do the import. I leverage the same concept, and what we are doing is I have written a configuration where I can put what all file need to be imported from the source control directly to Sitecore. So it will call the Sitecore API and it will update. So it's just a Gulp task. I run the Gulp task. So my first step will be getting the latest branch, running the Gulp task. Gulp will build the CSS, and then I will hit import task, and Gulp will import the CSS. So this is hardly like a kind of half or 1 minute job for me. Now all the CSS changes will be imported back to Sitecore. I, being developer, will validate the same in local machine, and then once I am confident that the changes are there, I can commit them back to TDS.
So the only manual step that we are doing is export. So when we do any component updates, we need to export. That gets exported in the web root. But as we need to source control, so we copy it manually to our source control folder. That's the only manual step that we have. Rest all the steps are automated. So it's like we just need to click a script or a Gulp task, and it will do all the job. So just adding this. Then there are also like Fed import challenges. Whenever, for example, there is some bug, some UI bug, wherein BD is never required for UI bugs. It's only front-end jobs. But with SXA, as we need to import it to Sitecore, it is required that back-end developer is also required there. So to minimize this, there is also concept of Creative Exchange Live. But with Creative Exchange Live, it was like if there is a bug that occurred on UAT, for example, or prod, then we can't use Creative Exchange Live directly on UAT or prod. We need to use it in QA. So if QA is configured to use Creative Exchange Live, then any change that front-end developer would do would directly go to QA, but will not be available in local box or dev branch. So there is a challenge using Creative Exchange Live. So what we do is we still follow that whenever there is a change from Fed, bed is required as of now, until any of you have done anything else. So that's it from us. Are there any more questions?
How do we access Creative Exchange Live?
So
Suppose I wanted to use it.
yeah, there are some config files available. We need to provide the URL of the endpoint where I need to focus. Like for example, I want my QA site to be configured. So qa.hi.com, that URL I would provide. Then we need to provide the credentials to log in into Sitecore. And rest of the things are handled by the Creative Exchange Live.
The files that are getting generated, are they same as Creative Exchange, or
That's our same. Those are same. Creative Exchange is just a manual step to export import. Creative Exchange Live, it watches automatically what changed and it just syncs. The same process, it's automatic. Any more questions? Yeah.
Like in the diagram, we have third step, right, for the trade updates. So what are the limitations there for the front-end developer that we cannot do in the CSS stage?
Okay. The first limitation is the HTML structure. So if I create, Deepak, can you open that exported HTML file? Yeah. So there are the HTML structure cannot be changed directly. First of all, by front-end developer. There are also limitations where the new files can be, new CSS class can be added. Open in Notepad. So So when you see the source of the exported file, let's go down. So are you able to see the div?
Yeah, I can
So
see.
this div has a class called component, promo card, and some column classes, and there is last add your CSS class here. So the front end developer can only add classes here only. If he adds a class at the first before component, it won't get imported. First thing. If he changes any of the HTML, like a div to a span, or if he just restructures any of the HTML, then that won't get imported into Sitecore. So these are some basic limitations for Fed.
The documentation page was with the direct classes, like those street to level, bootstrap bricks. So one of the channel we have was SXA version, and the format version it can support bootstrap 3. Even if we are having bootstrap 4, which can be used, because there are a lot of fixes in bootstrap 4 as well, but we are not able to use because of Sitecore reform.
So adding to what Brijesh is telling is we are using Sitecore 9.0.2 with Commerce 9.0.3. Sitecore 9.0.2 supports Bootstrap 4, SXA supports Bootstrap 4, but Commerce Storefront 9.0.3 does not support Bootstrap 4. So we have to use Bootstrap 3 there. So that is also a challenge for Fed team to make sure which Bootstrap we are using. So we have to do some logic. But that's a part of challenge. Any more questions? That's it from our side. Thank you. Thank you.